I feel like people don't make a very strong effort to try to understand what I'm saying. You know what I mean? Sometimes, like even this one, Vaush has been having it rough lately, and the meme is that like I'm arguing with everyone right now. But like the monogamy and marriage thing, saying it was a relic of Christianity was just wrong. Monogamy and marriage have been around since long before Christianity. I'm a Satanist, bro. I reject Christianity. I literally said this in the conversation. I talked about monogamy's origins being back to the beginning of like modern like civilization, not Christianity. The thing that I said was derived from Christianity is the idea that sex is something sacred. Do you guys remember that? I said that Christianity was responsible for a lot of people associating like sex with some kind of sort of chaste like inherent virtue or something as opposed to other things that we do. I didn't say monogamy derived from Christianity. But 244 upvotes, you know? My like literally my subreddit, my stream, like nobody listens, you know? And also like the church has definitely like socially normalized and reinforced monogamy like in the modern era, you know? Like, there's no getting around that. It didn't start with them, but they're definitely one of the biggest social institutions in the past few millennia that's been like pushing for that shit. I mean, sometimes he brings it on itself. Well, he is combative and incendiary, but a lot of criticism comes from not understanding very simple concepts he outlines. Even in this subreddit, people complain about things he said when all they had to do was listen to the entire sentence or to the follow-up sentence. Some see a certain key phrase, instantly take it personally, and fly into a rage. True! Most attentive Vaush stream viewer. Insecure and jealous are both very loaded terms, and watching Vaush avoid defining them and insisting only on explaining himself through examples is frustrating. Wait, I did define it. No. No. I did, though. No. Oh, hey, Purple Maggot. I see you in chat. Yeah, I tried to give examples and stuff. I saw a comment implying you don't think monogamous couples can be happy. Yeah, well, you know. I feel like giving examples is one of the best ways to define something when you're talking about a fairly nebulous like concept like what jealousy or what insecurity is, you know? Is it true that you said monogamous people are fundamentally insecure? I think that insecurity is the root of like monogamy in almost all cases, but that all human beings are insecure and most of our social interactions are dictated by a number of feelings we have towards other people, including insecurity. I just think that monogamy generally is about insecurity, but that's not me saying that monogamous people are like uniquely broken or something. I just think that it's an arbitrary standard that we all define in different like places and set in different ways, but we do have to recognize it comes down to jealousy. You know? Or like to put it another way, let me put it this way, okay? Like this is something I've experienced a lot, right? What if you like want to watch a show with somebody? Like you have a close friend or maybe even a partner. You want to watch a show with them and you've said that you want to watch a show with them kind of like offhandedly, but then later you say it and they're like, "Oh, sorry, I already watched it with another friend." You know? Like is that really a big deal? Not really. But I'd feel, like, kinda fucking jealous a little bit, like, I'd feel, like, kinda bad, right? Because it was like it's not really a big deal, it doesn't mean anything like, if I just offhandedly mentioned it, it's not like they betrayed me, they just watched something with a friend, but, you know, I'd feel a little like, "Ah, that was our thing," you know? What I'm describing right now is rooted in insecurity to an extent, and I think it's okay for me to be upset by that, but it still comes from insecurity, right? Like, it's just a part of how humans are. We have these feelings, and our responsibility as good social agents is to manage those feelings in a responsible way. No, Vermin, I don't think it's really a choice. I think that people's predilection towards monogamy and non-monogamy might be a little bit affected by like changes in how they see things, but for the most part, I think it just comes down to what expectations and entitlements they feel to their partners and friends, you know? And I think that's a product of insecurity, but we all have that. Even the most incredibly non-monogamous, polyamorous, like gender fuck, whatever types who fuck everyone and they're like super chill are gonna have arbitrary standards where they'll feel upset over their friends doing something without them and make them feel insecure. Like everyone feels this way, you know? My only point is that with monogamy, you're arbitrarily drawing that line like after like the idea of monogamous sexual contact, whereas when you're not monogamous, you don't. But either way, wherever you draw that line, it will be influenced by insecurity. Does that make sense? Okay. I feel like that's as nuanced as I can say it, okay? I feel like yeah. Yeah. I feel like yeah. I just think that non-monogamous relationships and monogamous relationships should be held kind of like equally expected, you know? Because in a lot of parts of the world, by which I mean the overwhelming majority of the world, non-monogamy can get you either killed or socially ostracized, or at the very least, it's like some weird taboo thing. The only places where that's not the case are like really urbanite progressive cities, and some other cultures have different attitudes. But for the most part, like, yeah. Um, but I think it'd be cool if it was just considered like kind of a choice that people have, or like a preference, sorry, a preference that people have that's just kind of seen as valid either way, right? Like, imagine if it's like, I don't know, are you like an extrovert or are you an outrovert? It's like, I don't know, it's 50-50. Are you like do you like going to the movies or playing games? Like, I don't know, like 50-50, whatever. Oh, are you like monogamous or non-monogamous? Oh, it's like 50-50. You know, it's just like kind of a thing. Well, YOLO Hobbit, I understand that the use of the word insecure was inflammatory, but I was hoping the 40 minutes of clarification and like contextualization afterwards, outrovert, yeah, would help a little bit, but I think some non-monog people don't know that's what they are, so they end up cheating or falling for others and getting fucked because that's where they naturally fall. Yeah, yeah, exactly, Vermin. There are a lot of people, I think, who cheat on their partners because they just don't have the same feelings about sexual exclusivity that the people around them do, but they don't know that non-monogamy is such a thing. That's not to say cheating is good. It's not good. It's not acceptable. But I think that a lot of people struggle with monogamy because they're not naturally suited to it, but it's all anyone's taught about and all anyone expects, so they don't feel like they have an alternative, and they're it's like, you know, round peg square hole, right? Whereas if it was a little more normalized, maybe it'd be a little easier for people to gravitate towards partnerships that they you know, that they're, you know, more healthy with. Yeah, like compet compulsive monogamy, right? Actually, I think that compet is a really good example, relatively speaking here, because do think some people are straight and some people are gay and some people are bi or poly or whatever. But I also think that because of arbitrary social standards, a lot fewer people are bi than they probably would be otherwise, you know? Like if we had a society that was more radically accepting of men like fucking other dudes or whatever, there'd probably be a lot more like bi guys out there. And same with women. Yeah, stuff like that, you know? So and I think that should be normalized. So I'm not saying that like you can't be straight or gay. I'm only saying that I think that we are limited a little bit by the expectation that those are the only like that we're limited to like being straight. Um and there would be more free flowing expression there, you know. Um that's my opinion on that. Yeah, yeah, Vermin. It's rough out there. Was there well-deserved criticism? Everything has just become an optics game for him. It's cringe as fuck. I don't understand this criticism. Why do people say that everything is just an optics game for me in a post that's about me antagonizing and arguing against like 12 different groups of people at once? What wouldn't this indicate that I care about principles above optics? I don't think they know what optics means. No, they probably don't. By optics, they probably mean I talk a lot. Like, yeah, yeah, it doesn't mean anything. Um, but yeah, it's like it's the whole thing is like I just want to see real quick. This guy posts in political compass memes. Yeah. Wow, this guy posts a lot in political compass memes. Jesus Christ, that's the I don't think is like a conservative or anything, but like, yeah. Oh God. Well, they certainly have opinions, you know? Yeah, anyway, I don't know what they mean by like optics game. Vaush's takes on monogamy often come across like, bro, get over it, as if you're being immature for living that way. Guys, did I ever say that monogamous people should get over it? I think I said like 4,000 times, if you're that way, you're that way. There's nothing wrong with that. Live your life. I swear to God, I said that like so, so many times. Yeah, they sound pretty insecure. I don't know, guys. What did Vaush do to Monogamous? Said monogamy was based in insecurity and people in the chat had internalized Christianity for disagreeing. I said they had internalized Christianity for deifying sex as some sort of, you know, especially special magical thing as opposed to like any other sort of thing that people can do with each other that they like. Wow, that's completely unhinged. Bummer seeing poly-supremacist rhetoric from Vaush. Thought he was better than that? What the fuck? Poly-supremacist what is this the line in the sand that we're fighting, right? Is the holy fuck how how much of a bitch baby do you have to be to feel like you're being oppressed for being monogamous? Oh yeah, dude. Monogamous people are truly getting the short end of the stick right now. You're only advantaged in every imaginable social, cultural, and economic way. It must be so difficult with having literally everything like slanted towards you. They didn't say they were being oppressed. This sounds like the kind of person. Does this not sound like that? This language definitely implies how are polygamous people at disadvantage, though? We're not talking about polygamous people. We're talking about polyamorous people. But in terms of polygamous people, polygamy is illegal. So there you go. That would be it, wouldn't it? But if we're talking about polyamorous people, culturally, culturally, we discourage non-monogamy incredibly severely. Wait, do you not think sex is a more significant thing people can do than any other random activity? I don't know, dude. You could go to war together and fight in a band of brothers. I don't care. Shut up. Fuck you. I don't want to have this argument again. Do what makes you happy. The classic say something controversial, see how people react. If it's bad, then play it off like a joke playbook. I wasn't joking. These people are incredibly insecure. How does this shit get upvoted? These people haven't even watched the thing we're talking about. Wait, this reply implies your previous post of poly-supremacist wasn't ironic? Come back to reality soon. Supremacy is cringe. Sorry being anti-hierarchy makes you mad. Holy shit. Excuse me? My anarchist principles compel me to fight against your poly-supremacist... Holy shit. Yeah, get out of my room, Dad. Oh my god. What the fuck? How? It's not a joke. This person's fighting a battle. Where do you come from? I always have to I don't know if it's like I don't know if like they embed porn posts or whatever. Girl gamers. Vegan, actual hippies. I don't know. They're living it up right now. Thanks for the entertainment. Keep following whether Vaush tells you instead of having the introspection to question or having the humility to listen to a single other person's experience. What the fuck? Mono and poly are both equally valid. Valuing one over another is absurdist and anti-human. This is weaponizing social justice rhetoric in favor of or towards like stupid ends. So what, Vaush, the subreddit's full of users that don't follow all of your ideas? Well, I had a very laissez-faire ban policy to begin with, but for somebody as controversial as me, that might not be, like, possible. Vaush isn't against monogamy, so you're also wrong, but I was only talking about your own comment. Ha 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 ha. You clearly didn't watch his stream. His criticisms were deep projection and knee-jerk emotional. It was total clown town. He's usually not this juvenile. Least unhinged. I gotta say, my opinion that monogamous people are insecure has not been in any way, shape, or form challenged by the behavior. Seen here. Oh, here's that person again. His poly supremacy is cringe. This person's on a fucking tirade. Do you think this person got cheated on once by a person who claimed to be non-monogamous and justified the cheating that way, and now they're like, they're fighting it out against me? Vaush's takes pretty cringe and tone deaf. Wrong. But some of y'all are legit acting like monogamous people are being oppressed by poly people just because they have bad takes sometimes. uh, Man, people are really getting it out in here. Holy shit. Monogamy was for preserving power after death. To do that, you had to own a woman to ensure ownership of a child. Absolutely brain dead take. Wait. Wait, anthropologically, yeah, it seems like there are really good sources to indicate that monogamy was initially about securing like hereditary power by making sure you knew your children directly descended from you. And the only way to do that, outside of genetic testing, which wasn't available back then, like they literally did this in the modern world. That we still do this. The royal family still exists in England. We know that like there's a component of like hereditary transference of power to monogamy. That's why the people are so concerned with who like the British royal family members marry. Maybe also because it reduces the risk of contracting STIs. I don't think they knew what that was 10,000 years ago. This is literally like one of the strongest anthropological explanations for how monogamy came to develop. Like monogamy does not seem to have been a thing in human tribal societies. Like, I mean, I'm sure some people practiced it, but there wasn't like it's not like it was obligate behavior. Like, it seemed like humans just kind of fucked around, right? Yeah. Like, why not? Yeah. People would fuck around and then raise children communally. Nobody really knew whose children belonged to who, like, genetically, because, like, why would it matter, you know? Yeah. Engels wrote on how the family came about. Anarchists like Eric Mossam wrote literally on that. To agree with me, like this too, like their points were also similar to this.
Vaush bad. Vaush bad. Vaush bad.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. Just I don't know. You seem to be making arguments against monogamy, then saying you can do that if you want. I'm making arguments against compulsory monogamy. You can do that if you want. Why the fuck would I ever want to force monogamous people into non-monogamy? Why the fuck would I ever want who would ever waste their time? Why? What possible benefit could I as an individual accrue or society accrue from forcing monogamous people to be non-monogamous? It's no point. Um I just don't want compulsory monogamy, which is kind of what we have right now. Yeah.
Vaush bad. Vaush
I agree with the
bad.
spirit of his take. Most
Vaush
monogamous
bad.
relationships are born out of pressure from society, not a conscious choice from an informed viewpoint. Um, I think this implies that you could choose to not be monogamous. What I will say is that our bias towards monogamy, flower power again. Holy shit! I um I think that our bias towards compulsory monogamy is largely a product of sort of reinforced um social pressure. Yeah, not that everyone would be non-monogamous were it not for that, just that we it's like again like compet, right? Like you can make the you can make the statement like most heterosexual relationships are born out of pressure from society, not a conscious choice from an informed viewpoint. And I don't know if I'd agree with that exactly, but like the spirit or the sentiment of it I think is understandable, like in the sense that we're pushed towards that. um Yeah. I don't think we really have enforced monogamy, but it's sort of expected. Legally, we do have enforced monogamy. We literally do. Marriages are only valid between two people. But culturally, we do. Yeah, people who are non-monogamous are considered like huge outliers, and especially if you're like a femme, you get hell of shamed for that shit. You know, guys can get away with it a little bit more, but yeah. All right, I can take a look at this angle stuff. Yikes. This couldn't be more untrue. Okay, this flower power person is incredible. Hey, mad respect. I absolutely despise poly or mono supremacists. I have never seen these terms used before, but they're fighting with the fucking militant vigor of like a social justice warrior. Incredible stuff.
Vaush bad. Vaush bad. Vaush bad.
This is one person malding. Well, they're getting the most upvotes, so. All right. All right. When are we going to acknowledge the monogamous question? Look, I just think people should do whatever makes them happy, you know? But I also think people should be introspective and critical of whatever biases they might have. And I mean that on all sides, right? So I'm going to play the centrist line, and I'm going to do this for both monogamous and non monogamous people, okay? Monogamous people. I do think that fundamentally, arbitrarily drawing the line as to what behavior you think you're entitled to exclusivity from your partner, drawing that line at sex, I think, is an arbitrary decision based in insecurity. But you have to draw the line somewhere, and no matter where you draw it, it will be an arbitrary decision based in insecurity. There's no getting away from that. But I think you should remember, at least fundamentally, um, that that is the case, that there is a degree of arbitrariety there, because in the future, if you ever feel your feelings change on some of this stuff, it's better to interpret that from an introspective viewpoint than to just shun any feeling that you have or to exclusively relegate it to some kind of like immoral vestigial like desire to be uncommitted. And likewise, to non monogamous people, I know this is a thing. There are non monogamous people who will force themselves into non monogamy, not because it really makes them happy, but because they aestheticize the idea of being a slut or being sexually free or promiscuous. When in reality, they don't really want to or have the energy to. There's an aesthetic or an ideal of being sexually free that they want to embody. And in doing so, they make themselves unhappy because when they would really rather settle down with one person, or at the very least not fuck around totally, they're like really attached to the idea of being like that, like that type of thing. So no matter what your preference is, just make sure to be introspective. That's the only thing that I would ever ask, you know? Do we know if there's a not agonomy ogamy term for those who want to stay alone? Yeah, we call them loserogamy. And I don't know. Sir Political Banana, it's about the it's about the harm that it does culturally, right? So sexual assault and rape are considered very heinous crimes in our society because they have very heinous outcomes. Now, it's possible that the reason they have very heinous outcomes is at least influenced by the fact that we consider sex to be this very special thing, that it's being like ruined through like rape or sexual assault. But even if that might be the case in an abstract sense, it doesn't change the fact that materially, right now, the effect that it has is devastating on people. Like we can look at this pretty clearly, right? Like like even if there's some arbitrary like back end cultural stuff influencing it, the fact is that right now like sexual assault and rape have devastating impacts on people's like mental health and well-being, and for that reason I think that we appropriately demonize them, like more so than regular assault and battery. Thank you for clearing that up. Yeah, of course. It's also important to point out that rape and sexual assault are it's one of those few magical things that are essentially completely contextually unjustifiable. Almost anything else you can find some kind of justification for. Whether you're talking about things like war, assault, murder, violence, there are a ton of really bad things, and you can think, okay, here's a reason that might be necessary. We went to war with Nazi Germany. I think that's okay. Killing in self defense is justifiable. Or murdering a person who you think is gonna like blow a bomb up in a city. Like I don't know, whatever. Even like a lot of there's a lot of shit that's bad that you can think of a justification for given certain contexts. But rape and sexual assault aren't like that. Unless I've said this before, unless it's like an alien tells you that they're going to blow up the planet unless you rape someone, or some stupid fucking utilitarian edge case like that. Like, okay. Outside of stuff like that, um there's just no way to materially like justify it. It's an unjustifiable act. Can you acknowledge that people who don't want relationships and or sex are normal and awesome? Yeah. And also you've way more free time to do other shit, right? Fuck, I wish I was you guys. How do we reduce the woke skull meter subreddit? Oh, we'll clean it up eventually. Don't worry. It's all good. Um, you've been single since March. Shut up. Yeah, and yeah, and even when I'm not hooking up with people, I still jerk off. Okay, my brain is still encaged by the Coomer mindset. Maybe Sargon was right. Maybe I just need to concuss myself until my sex drive falls out, and I can spend 19 hours a day playing video games instead of 17. You know. Um. Anyway, what was I saying? What about ducks who build their whole reproductive system on rape? Rape is so horribly common in nature. Why do we as humans rightly demonize it?
Vaush
Because
bad.
animals aren't
Vaush
really
bad.
ethical agents.
Vaush
Animals
bad.
don't really have like a concept of ethical behavior, whereas we do. We have a unique obligation to moderate our behavior in ways that conform to our ethical expectations because other animals literally don't. Other animals literally do not have uh, the ability to understand ethics as a concept. It's exclusive to us. True. Yes, they're too stupid to be ethical. Very true. I mean, animals can be taught to be kind or taught to feel bad, but it's not because of ethics. It's because of trying to maintain social relations. Like, right? Animals like dogs and dolphins and stuff are capable of kind behavior, but it's not because they understand ethics. They're just trying to, yeah, like children do that as well. Like 5-year-old kids don't understand ethics. They don't. They're not they don't understand ethics. However, they can be conditioned and taught to be kind to others in social situations because there are more baseline uh instincts that they can appeal to. So the parts of our brain that moderate our ability to socialize with others is more universal and develops earlier than the parts of our brain that allow us to understand abstract things like ethical systems. That requires like a much greater. And by the way, most adults also don't understand ethics, to be fair. Not because they can't, but because it was never taught to them. Whereas most human beings understand how to like kind of get along with people around them, you know? Or in other words, ethics has to be learned, whereas social interactions can usually be kind of picked up from people around you.